Democracy Fund president and George W. Bush recount attorney back in the Bush v. Gore days in Florida 20 years ago. Tom, thank you for coming on. So Brian went through Pennsylvania, Jonathan went through Nevada a little bit, and there's some other states. Is there anything that you've heard from the Trump campaign officials here that might stick? Is there anything that should be concerning? What do you make of what has happened in the last couple of days in terms of what's been filed and what's been threatened?
This is a typical situation involving election litigation. There are a lot of allegations. There's a lot of information coming into the legal team, a lot of forensic people in the field, a lot of investigators looking at records and looking at what happened and the formulation of the legal issues to be presented to the court. And ultimately, obviously, it'll be a court to decide if they win. It's a heavy burden in an election litigation. And whether or not it gets to the Supreme Court of the United States is another issue. But there are some very, especially in Pennsylvania, there are some very substantial issues.
What's the biggest issue in Pennsylvania? What would you look at most closely in this state?
The issue is the constitutionality of what the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania did in taking on legislative responsibilities and changing the election rules just before the election with respect to the date of the election, extending the date of the election with mail-in ballots for postmarks and ballots which really don't even require postmarks by the Supreme Court decision. So the question there presented to the Supreme Court of the United States will be, did the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania have the right under our U.S. Constitution to make those changes, or is that exclusively within the province of the legislature?
Right. Those postmarks, and the postmarks you're alluding to, the ones that when a postmark can't be read, that seems to be one of the questions. It will be interesting to see how that one is ruled on. Can I ask you one other maybe legal strategic question, if you don't mind? And that this goes back to 20 years ago when there were questions about, close races in a number of states. But the concentration on the legal side was in one state, in Florida, with the hanging chads and everything else.
Right.
Is that, or would that be the only way to successfully contest an election in a hypothetical, to just put all your resources in one state as opposed to filing all these lawsuits all over the map? What's the best way to go about this?
No. The Republican Party has enough resources to put excellent legal teams in each of those states that are going to be contested and develop strategies and legal theories with respect to each of them. So they're doing exactly the right thing. And it's just a question of patience and time and effort, and there's going to be a winner and a loser.
The timing of that, right, is December usually when you have to certify the electors, and is the goal, I guess, from if you're representing the challenger in this case, the president, or to get a case to the United States Supreme Court by then, to try to latch onto one of these cases in one of the other courts and try to drive it all the way up there? Is that essentially what they're trying to do you think? Or?
Yes, absolutely, because it's a sprint. They have to have the case determined finally by December the 8th.
Right. That's the big date, because we have to certify those electors and move forward, as we did in the year 2000, as you well know. Tom, thank you. It's good to have someone with your experience and insight on to explain all this to us as we follow it in real time.